Hello, everyone. Good evening to all. Can somebody please confirm if you can hear me loud and clear? Wonderful. And also, please confirm if you can see the annotations on the screen. Oh my God. Yeah, amazing energy today. I hope you know what we are going to learn today. There are so many interesting ideas. We stopped somewhere in between. We didn't cover the complete yesterday's agenda so far. I will start with that. And then from there on, we'll try to learn some new interesting ideas today. All right. Um, to begin with, just want to ask a quick question. How many of you are still not on Discord? Because I believe Discord is a place where I have been sharing the notes from each and every single session. In case if you are not on Discord, I would suggest you to scan this QR code and ensure that you become a part of our Discord channel. For day one, I have already shared like all the notes which we have discussed yesterday. Everything has been already shared in this Discord channel. Yes, building the generative AI application is not yet done. So in the first half an hour, the initial half an hour, Aditya will be covering the initial, like in this initial part, we will be covering how to build our first generative AI application. That's completely fine. I've already accounted that there are going to be few topics where I have to go slow because it also is important for me to ensure that everybody understands the entire curriculum that we have to, the entire agenda that we have to cover. All right, that's completely fine. In case if you feel that the sessions are going too slow, please do let me know so that I can increase the speed. But at the same time, in case if you even now, if you feel that the speed is fast, do let me know so that I can reduce the speed as well. But I hope before we start the discussion today, like, were you comfortable with the speed I used yesterday, like the speed with which I was discussing all the topics yesterday? Was it fine and are you all comfortable with that? All right. YouTube link we have is for full stack course where we can. Yes, I will share that, Sanya. Like, in case if somebody is requiring, like, if you want the full stack course as well as the data science course YouTube link, please do let me know so that I can share it with you after the session gets completed. You can raise your request through Discord, because let's try to focus only on the topics we have to cover in today's session during these 2 hours. Will we cover some data science stuff? Srijita, I will share the complete roadmap. Maybe not today. Maybe we'll discuss about the complete roadmap from data science to generative AI tomorrow. So yes, I will definitely cover that. But for now, my major goal is to ensure that all of us understands the generative AI and agentic AI part. And then we will get into the remaining parts of our discussion. Got it? Can we start with this without any further ado? Can we start? Yesterday's attendance was captured, Prajwal. Today's attendance will be captured with another QR code. I will share that QR code once we are completed with this session. Okay. Rajiv, can you please drop that query through Discord? Maybe you can use the Discord group. I've been active since yesterday on that Discord group, which I showed you yesterday. Maybe you can drop me a message so that I can quickly confirm with my team if there is any excellence certificate which has to be shared to you. And accordingly, maybe within a day or two, you can expect to get that certificate. Okay, Rajiv. Just drop a message to me. I will try to look into that and quickly ensure that you receive your certificate if you are eligible. Okay, perfect. So let's start with something interesting. Can somebody remind me in yesterday's session? In yesterday's session, I have I was discussing towards the end of the session, I was discussing about something called as various ways to access large language models. Can you remind me how many total ways were there to access large language models? Were there five or were there three ways? Yes, there were five ways to access large language models. There were five ways to access large language model. But out of five ways, how many ways did we discuss? Yes, we discussed out of five ways, three techniques were covered. Can you tell me the first one? What was the first way to access large language models? Yes, you rent large language model. And where do you go to rent a large language model? You go to official model provider. Official model provider will rent you these large language models. Can you name few official model providers from where we can get these models on rent? Yes, there is something called as OpenAI. There is something called as Anthropic. There is something called as Google AI, right? And there is something called as Cohere. Even this is one of the very, very popular company which has really good large language models available. What is the second way, just in case if you do not want to rent the large language model, what else can you do? You can download a free large language model and run it on your machine, right? You can locally run a large language model. Now, in order to locally run a large language model, you have to first download the large language model. Where do you download the large language model? From where do you download the large language model? Hugging Face, right? If you can remember, yesterday we have already seen and done a walkthrough of Hugging Face, as well as we have also done, like even you have done the complete walkthrough by experimenting and exploring various different large language models over there. Is download enough? After downloading, do we need to run the large language model? If we have to run the large language model, what do we require? In order to run the large language model, we need an application that allows us to run the large language model. And what application, what all applications are available? There are various applications available. One of the very popular application I spoke about yesterday was something called as Olama, right? LM Studio is another very popular application. LM Studio is very popular application. And as well as there are many other applications. But the idea here is, in case if you have to run the large language models, you have to download them, and then only after downloading those large language models, you will be able to run them on your system. But is there a problem with this approach? Is there a problem with this approach? Or is it really possible to run a large language model locally? Will you be able to run the state of the art large language models like Kimi K3 or Llama 405 billion parameters? No. And what is the reason why we cannot run large language models of huge size on our system? See, the issue is this works well. This works well for small language models, right? It works well for small language models. But if the large language model has to be downloaded and it has to be executed on your system, the model is going to consume a lot of memory. The model is going to consume a lot of compute resources like RAM, VRAM, CPU, GPU, and it will be impossible for you to run the large language models properly on your system. Yes, as Rishi has clearly mentioned, due to RAM shortage, it can be a little difficult for you to run a large language model. So what is an alternative? In case if you cannot run these large language models yourself, what was the alternative? Yes, try to rely on third party. Try to rely on third party platforms. Who are these third party platforms? What do they do? Instead of you going to Hugging Face and downloading models from Hugging Face, you can actually rely on these third party platforms, third party providers, model providers. And what do they provide? They simply see, do they have their own models? Do they build their own models? These third party platforms, these third party model providers? No, they do not build their own models. What they do instead, they will go to this particular place called as Hugging Face. After going to Hugging Face, they will try to deploy the models on their own systems so that they can sell the inference of those large language models to people like us. Is this part clear to all of you? Is this part clear to all of you? So what do? They simply download the models on their system. From where do they download the models from their system? On their system, they will go to Hugging Face to download the models. From Hugging Face, when they have captured the large language model, they will run the model on their server. All right. And since their servers are going to be way too powerful than our simple uh, consumer hardware, simple laptops or computers, these models works efficiently on their hardware, and hence they can share the inference of these models to anybody who wants to use those models. Rather than running the model on your machine, you can simply use these models through cloud via third-party platforms. Do you remember any third-party platform? Yes. I spoke about a third-party platform called as Grok. Do you remember a similar name is also related to one large language model? There is something called as a large, there is a model called as Grok. There is a model called as Grok, Grok. This is a large language model. Please remember, this Grok with a K is a large language model from XAI company. Yes, absolutely correct, Abhay. Is it clear to all of us? Whereas this grok, a little confusing, but this grok is not at all related to XAI. This is a separate company, a company which offers model inference through their cloud servers because they have enough resources to deploy the large language models, and we can simply rely on them to get that access. Apart from Grok, there are many other providers. I'll just name a few. Maybe there is something called as Open Router. There is something called as Open Router. There is something called as Novita. There is something called as Samba Nova. Funny names, but these are some large language models available. Sorry, these are some third-party platforms available. Yes, like Replicate, Together AI, Fireworks. All these are various different third-party providers, which also allows us to access large language models through their inference, through their websites. Now, I will put a star mark in front of one of the providers. And also, I will put a star mark in front of one of the official model provider, a third-party model provider and an official model provider. Got it? Now, what is this star mark representing? This star mark represents that there exists a way to free, like without paying anything, you can access these large language models. Please note that even Google AI has a free tier. All right. Google AI also has a free tier, but OpenAI and Anthropic, they do not provide any free tier at all. You have to start paying, or you have to pay in order to use their large language models from these official model provider list. OpenAI, Anthropic, they do not allow you to use their models for free, whereas Google AI and Cohere allows you to use their models completely for free. But it doesn't mean you have unlimited free access. You have a limited free tier access through these official model providers. Similarly, when I say third-party platform, under third-party platform, Grok as well as Open Router, they both provide free tier access to their models. But again, remember, the free tier access is limited. It is not unlimited free tier access. Very, very important for you to remember this. Any questions here? If no questions, drop a thumbs up in the chat so that I can proceed and show you something interesting. Wonderful. Are the third-party providers legal? Yes, obviously. See, somebody is selling the large language model inference. Definitely it is legal, but the major question is it secure, right? And there is a huge question mark over there. A lot of customers and clients I've worked with, some of them or most of them, they will never trust these third-party platforms. They will mostly they will neither go for this They won't even go for this, or sometimes partially they will go for this, but they will never go for this third party inference platforms. Do you want to see what do they actually go for? Most of the companies, most of the inference providers, they will go for something called as, I'll show you now the same slide which I showed you yesterday. We have already seen the first, second, and the third way. The fourth way is something that most of the companies actually rely upon. All right. So this is called as managed enterprise AI platforms. I hope everybody knows that there are three major cloud providers out there. What are the three major cloud providers? There is something called as AWS, there is something called as Azure, and there is something called as GCP. This is from a company called as Amazon, whereas this comes from a company called as Microsoft, and this comes from a company called as Google. I hope we all are at least aware of it, or at least we have heard it somewhere that there exists something called as AWS, there exists something called as Azure, there exists something called as GCP. Now, if you ask me which one do the company use, it depends upon what they actually use for other works internally. If a company relies completely on AWS, they will use AWS in order to access large language models as well. AWS has a very popular service called as Amazon Bedrock. AWS has a very popular service called as Amazon Bedrock. Just try to think of it as third-party inference provider. But this third-party inference provider is a reliable third-party inference provider. As in, a lot of people are going to trust Amazon versus trusting these companies. Do you agree with that? Some of these companies are going to be Chinese companies who are inferencing these large language models by getting it from Hugging Face. Whereas companies like Amazon, companies like Microsoft, companies like Google, the entire internet runs on AWS, Azure, and GCP, right? The entire internet runs on AWS, Azure, or GCP. Everybody already trusts these platforms. So why not get large language model access through these platforms directly? And that is what actually brings us to this particular point. What I'm trying to say here is that almost everybody I've worked with so far in the past 3 to 4 years of generative AI, everybody typically focuses on either using Amazon AWS. In case if their entire infrastructure is on AWS, they will use AWS. Otherwise, they will use Azure if their entire infrastructure is on Azure. If their entire infrastructure is on GCP, they will use GCP. There is no question about which one is better than, or if there is any comparison between these three. There is no proper comparison, but somehow there'll be some form of biases between teams that we will use AWS over Azure because of so and so reason. But most of these, like all these three platforms, they provide almost very similar services. The service or the platform that AWS has for LLM access is called as Amazon Bedrock. Azure has something called as Microsoft Foundry, whereas Google has a platform called as Vertex AI, which is very popular in this area, in this domain, in this generative AI, agentic AI domain. There is a little to no difference in the cost, Soumya. Like most of these platforms, they offer these models, large language models, at almost very similar cost. Microsoft Foundry, Amazon Bedrock, as well as GCP, Vertex AI, they all provide the model access almost at a very similar cost with bare minimum changes. Is this part clear to all of us? Can fake companies download them? Yes, definitely. Somebody's asking, Aryan is asking this question: why can we download or why can't we download their models from Hugging Face? Can fake companies download them? Yes, definitely. Anybody can download them. And can they misuse them? Definitely, they can misuse them, right? But as a customer, as a person, as a consumer, we have to be aware about what is fake and what is not fake. And for that, understanding about generative AI is very crucial, right? Is that clear? Amazing. Now, would you like me to show you? See, I won't be able to get into any of these platforms in proper detail. All right. I won't be able to get into detail, but would you like me to show you maybe at least a very high level overview of one of these services so that at least you know how, just in case tomorrow, if you start working, how to start accessing and how difficult or easy it can be to access one of these platforms? All right. I'll do that tomorrow. Will that be fine for all of you? I will do that tomorrow. Maybe I'll try to pick one of the service like Microsoft Foundry, and I'll show you, just in case if you have to start accessing large language models from Microsoft Foundry, what are the processes. I can currently, like, I can proper, like, totally understand that you might not have the access to Microsoft Foundry because it is completely paid, but at least have a look at it. I will demonstrate it tomorrow so that just in case if you have to refer to these notes, maybe when you start working, you can easily do that in your organization, wherever you work. All right. So this is not something I'll do today. This is something I'll do tomorrow. Maybe somewhere 15 minutes it will take hardly for me to demonstrate how you can actually go to a cloud platform like Azure and start using Microsoft Foundry and get the access to large language models. But before that, it's very important for us to become a little comfortable with whatever we see on the board right now. Today in this session, I want you to first, do you remember yesterday we started with something called as chat GPT versus GPT? You remember that? Are you ready to look into how an application can be built? You remember yesterday's last topic was learn how to build a large language model based generative AI model or generative AI based application. Let's try to actually see that. In order to build the application, can you please tell me what is required? Yes, let's try to build our first generative AI application. Tell me what is required. What are the components required to build a generative AI application like ChatGPT? Definitely amazing. UI is required. Apart from UI, do you require something else? Even a large language model is required, right? What kind of a UI is required? How many of you agree that we require a UI which has a chat interface? Yes or no? We require a UI like a chat interface, and we need the large language model. Do you know how to get the large language model? At least in theory, you know that there exist various ways to access the large language models. Yes or no? You at least know in theory that there exist few ways to access the large language models. And are we aware of free tier or companies who are providing free tier for large language models? We know that there exist a few companies, like there exists something called as Cohere, there exists something called as Grok, and these two companies provide us the access to free tier, or they have a free tier for us to access their large language models. Yes or no? Now, what will I do? I will first, before I even start building this entire application, let's first try to get the access to large language model. Only after getting the access to large language model, I will be able to connect it to a user interface. Got it? Only after getting the access to large language model, I will be able to connect it to the user interface. Now, the question is, the big question is, how do I put together a user interface? I don't want to get into too much coding. So what I'll do is I'll try to use a tool. Have you ever heard about Python programming? I believe most of you must have heard about Python programming. Do you know that Python programming can be used to perform something called as data analysis? Do you know Python programming can be used to do something called as data analysis? And in order to do data analysis using Python, are you aware about libraries which are used to do data analysis? Are there any libraries that exist inside Python to do data analysis? Yes, there exist libraries like pandas. There exist libraries like matplotlib, seaborn, numpy, and many more libraries that allows us to do data analysis. In order to do the data analysis, is Python programming the only way? My next question is Python programming the only way to do data analysis? If no, can you please tell me any other way to do data analysis? What is the alternative way to do data analysis? R programming, amazing. How many of you also agree that there exist no code tools like Power BI as well? Tableau, Power BI, Excel, right? Microsoft Excel. You can use Microsoft Excel to do data analysis. A lot of people use Microsoft Excel to do data analysis. A lot of people use Power BI to do data analysis. It's simple drag and drop tool to do entire data analysis. Are we doing data analysis here? No. We are building a generative AI application here. You got it? We are building a generative AI application over here. In order to build generative AI application, there are two ways. I will talk about both the ways. One is Python programming. In Python programming, there exists a library, just like Pandas, Matplotlib, Seaborn. In Python programming, there exists a library called as LangChain, which allows us to build generative AI application. Is this part clear to all of us? What is the library that allows us to build generative AI application in Python? LangChain is one of the libraries. There exist many more libraries, but LangChain is the currently most adapted and most popular library out there. But the question is Python the only way? And the answer to that is no. There exists no code tool just like Power BI. There exists a drag and drop tool just like Power BI to build generative AI applications as well. And that no code tool for generative AI is called as LangFlow. All right. What is the benefit of using LangFlow? It is a no code or low code tool. You don't have to write any code. You just drag and drop in order to build your application. Is this part clear? We'll cover what LangGraph is, I think, Lakshmi. So we'll cover that maybe in a few days. But for now, try to remember that there are two ways. You can go with a programming way, or you can go with a drag and drop way to create generative AI application. As of now, we are not yet aware of how to use LangChain. But are we all aware of drag and drop? Are we all aware of how to drag and drop, how to use a mouse cursor? Yes, right? So let's try to have a look at this LangFlow way of building a generative AI application. It will hardly take us 15 to 20 minutes to do that. And we will have a very good understanding about how generative AI applications look like. But in order to start using LangFlow, there are few prerequisites required. Yes, it is open source. So you don't have to pay for LangFlow at all. It is completely open source. And I'll show you how to basically get the access to LangFlow. After the session is completed, can you please do this activity? I don't want you to do this right away. You just try to have a look at my screen and try to learn how to use LangFlow. After the session gets completed, you will anyways have the complete recording, right? So for today, maybe you can use this LangFlow as a maybe your LinkedIn post, and maybe create something and share it with the entire world that this is what you have built on day 2 of this particular course. So let me try to show you what is the prerequisite. First, please make a note of it. The first prerequisite is to download LangFlow application. All right. I've already done this setup on my system, so I won't download this LangFlow application. But once the session is completed, I want you to go to the internet, search for LangFlow desktop, and try to download this application on your system. All right. Let me stop sharing my screen and show you how we can actually do that. Let me know if you can see my desktop. Let me know if you can see my desktop. Yes. All right. So what do you do in order to access LangFlow? In order to access LangFlow, what you can do is you can simply go quickly to Google, search for LangFlow desktop download. When you search for this, you will see this first link, which will be from this open source company called as langflow.org. And it will clearly say desktop LangFlow low-code AI builder for agentic AI systems. When you click on this, it will open a new tab. And this is what you have to do. You just have to fill this form really quick and click on download button to get the access to this particular application. Once the application downloads, double click on the exe to download to install the entire application on your system. Is the idea clear to all of us? Is this clear to all of us? What is the process? Go to this website, langflow.org/desktop. Do not do this right away. Please do not do this right away. Just go to this after the class gets completed. Add all your details, click on download. Ensure that you click on this checkbox and click on download to get the access to this particular tool. Let me try to launch this tool on my system. I've installed this tool not using the desktop version, but I want you to do that. I have a different way in which I will be using this tool. Do not worry about this way. I'll just quickly do something. I'll just quickly launch this tool. Don't worry how I am launching this tool. When you install the desktop app, it will be easy for you to do it. Please share the link. Yes, definitely. I can quickly go to, just a second. I can quickly go to this Langflow desktop download. Search for this on Google. The first link, I'll copy this and put it on in your chat. Hope you are able to get this link. All right. Now, what will I do? I'll try to quickly run Langflow on my system. When you launch the app, this is how it will look like. Just give it a second. This is how it will look like. Is this part clear to all of us? Now, what are we supposed to do on this application? We are supposed to create a project, right? Do you all agree? We are supposed to create a project. What kind of a project are we supposed to build? We are supposed to build a ChatGPT kind of a project. Got it? We are supposed to build a ChatGPT kind of a project. In order to build a ChatGPT kind of a project, what will I do? I'll click on new project, new flow, plus new flow. All right. This is the way to create a new project on Langflow. When I click on this, it shows me a dialog box. I just need to scroll down and click on blank flow. All right. Please ensure that you have to scroll down towards the bottom right corner. You will see this option called as blank flow. When I click on this blank flow, guys, I want all of you to focus on the screen. All right. Otherwise, it will be difficult for you to understand how to manage this entire Langflow later. All right. First learn and then implement. All right. If you try implementing right away, it will be very difficult for you to do that implementation later or understand why we did something later. All right. As of now, what did I do? Can somebody please quickly help me revise? What is the only thing I did? I expected you to download this tool. I expected you to download this tool. When you launch this tool after downloading, you have to click on new flow. You have to click on the button new flow. And after you click on the button new flow, you will come to this page. Yes or no? Are we all clear with this? Yes. Download, install. After downloading, install. After installing, what do? You try to launch the app. After you launch the app, this is how it will look like. You have to just click on new project or new flow in that application. Now, there are few things you have to remember about this application. On the top, what do you see? You see the project name, right? So let me try to rename this project to my first generative AI application. I clicked on enter, save. All right, I clicked on save, and this will quickly rename my project. Is this part clear to all of us? Is this part clear to all of us? Any questions here? Now, please note that this section, you see this moving section? This section is called as canvas. All right, this is a place where I will build my entire application. All right, this is the place where I will build my entire application. What do you see on the left-hand side? On the left-hand side, we see the complete component list of application. All right, in order to build the application, I need components, right? I will drag and drop those components from this left-hand side. All right, this panel contains all the components. Yes, Soumya, it contains all the controls. I will try to bring all these controls from this left-hand side panel. If this is clear to all of you, can you please quickly drop a thumbs up in the chat section? Wonderful. Wonderful. Now, can you tell me what are the two components required? What are the two components required? There is UI and there is LLM. Let's try to bring LLM first. Are you ready to bring the LLM first? Do you know any model provider? There are three ways, right? We have already seen three ways. As per the first way, do you know any model provider which allows us to access LLMs? From the first way to access the large language models, what are various different ways in which we can access the large language models as per the first way? We have OpenAI, we have Google AI, we have Anthropic, we have Cohere, we have so many other options available. But out of all of those options, from the official model provider, which one was the free option? Which one was the free option? The Cohere, right? So let me try to search for Cohere in this search bar. Let me search for Cohere in this search bar. When we search for Cohere, by looking at this, can you tell me, do I need to go for a language model from Cohere or do I need to go for some other type of model from Cohere? Which one do I pick? Do I pick a embedding model? Did I ever speak about embedding model? No, right? I was speaking about large language model. So let me try to get this language model. What do I do? The most difficult part is to hold this component and bring it on the canvas and drop it on the canvas. This is how the component looks like. This is how the complete component looks like. When you search for Cohere, this is what you need to do with this language model component. Was it easy to understand? Was it easy to understand? Let me delete this. Let me delete this. Let me delete this component. Let me click on these triple dots. Delete this. Do you know any other component or do you know any other way to access large language models? You remember the third way? You remember the third way? As per the way three, let me remove this. As per the way three, Grok is another way. So let me try to search for GROQ, not the GROK. Let me search for GROQ. And do you see there is only a single component? If I want, I can just drag and drop this component on the canvas, just like this. Is this clear? Akhilesh, I just repeated the same thing with a different provider. Earlier, I went and searched for Cohere, found the component from Cohere and bought it over here. Later, I took the Grok component, dragged and dropped that Grok component over here on the screen. Is this part clear to all of us? So somebody is asking Minimax and many other models also exist. In case if Minimax and every other model also exists, can you please remind me what was the way to get those models? Second way, right? From where do we download the models in the way to? From where do we download the models in the way to? Hugging Face. So you have Hugging Face component. You see this? There is Hugging Face component available. You can actually use this Hugging Face component. After doing this, can you please tell me how do I run the model from Hugging Face? In order to run the model from Hugging Face, I might require Olama. When you search for Olama, you can see Olama component available here as well. You can drag and drop this Olama component from here to the canvas. Is this part clear? But I won't go into the second way. The reason for that is if I go into the second way, you won't be able to implement that on your system because the models are going to be too huge for you to download from the internet and then run those models on your system can be too complicated. So let's not explore this technique. Let's try to focus on the first technique, which was official model provider, and the second technique, which was Grok as a third-party inference provider. If you are clear, can you please quickly rate your understanding about whatever we have done so far on a scale of 1 to 5? Amazing. So looks like most of us are able to understand what we are doing. Amazing. Now, do you see a common section in both these components? Both these components, they have a common section. Can you identify that common section? Input. Amazing. What is the input? What does the input mean? What does the input mean? Input means passing a prompt, right? Yes, amazing. Input means passing a prompt. And do you see that there exists a model response component here towards the end? If you can see, there exists a model response component as well. What will be the model response if I give it an input? If any input is given, what is the type, or what do you remember from yesterday's session? I spoke about a technical term called as completion, right? So model response is going to be completion. Input is going to be nothing but the prompt, right? I will provide a prompt and model response is going to be nothing but the completion. But in order to make these two work, in order to make Cohere work, or in order to make Grok work, I need to provide a unique key over here called as API key. Is this part also clear to all of you? In order for this to work, as well as in order for this to work, I need to go to their websites. I need to go to Cohere website to get the API key of Cohere. I need to go to the Grok's website in order to get the Grok's API key and put it over here. Any questions here? Yes, these are free key. See, this is the reason why we are looking into these two providers. Grok as well as Cohere, they provide the free access. Is this part clear to all of you? So what do we need to do now? Can somebody tell me what is supposed to be done now in order for us to make this Cohere work as well as Grok work? What do? I need to get the API key. From where will I get the API key? Can somebody suggest me where do I go in order to get the API key? Yes, their websites. All right. So let's first try to go to Cohere website. All right. Let's first go to Cohere website and try to get the API key of Cohere. I will quickly. Are you all able to see my Google Chrome window? Can somebody please confirm if you can see my Google Chrome window? Yes? Amazing. So what will I do here? I will quickly try to search for the Cohere website, cohere.com. When I open this website, can somebody tell me where do I click in order to get the access to their API key? First, I need to create an account. All right. Remember, in order to get the API key, anywhere you have to first create an account. So I'll click on this sign in button. When I click on this sign in button, it opens this sign in option. It asks me either I can directly continue with Google or I can also continue with GitHub, or otherwise I can provide my email ID and password to access their website in order to access my account. Let me try to continue with Google. I would suggest you to do the same. Either you continue with Google or you continue with GitHub. Anything is fine. It will be much simpler and much quicker in case if you do that. Let me click on my Google account. Let me click on my Google account. And once I do this, it will open my dashboard on Cohere. Is this part clear to all of you? If you can see, I am now logged in. All right, I am now logged in, and this is a screen you will see once you log into which dashboard. Is it a Grok's dashboard or is it a Cohere's dashboard? Is it my Grok account or is it my Cohere account? It's a Cohere account. Amazing. Now, can you please guide me? Guide me, where do I click? Look at the screen and tell me where do I click? Do you know we came to this website to get something, right? What is that something? That something is API key. So let me click on this API key. And when I click on this API key and scroll down, do you see that there exists a default trial key? And they have clearly mentioned that this is a free trial key. All right. You have to actually use this same free trial key. In case if you do not see any trial key, you just need to click on this plus icon to create that trial key. Trial API key. Is this part clear to all of you? You remember I told you that these free keys are going to be limited, right? Yes, they have limits, and you can look into their documentation to understand what their actual limits really are. All right. As of now, they have clearly mentioned that trial key is going to have some limits. So please ensure that you do not use it for commercial purposes. Use it only for education purposes, nothing more than that. Even if you try to use it for production purposes, you will not be able to utilize it properly. Which model do they provide? I will come to that in a moment. But first, let's try to get the access to their API key. Is this part clear to you? Uday, is it clear? And everybody else, is this part clear? All right. So what do I do in order to get this API key? They have clearly mentioned that this is the API key. In order to get the access to this API key, I first need to click on this I button. And when I click on this I button, I can click on this copy button. Is the process clear to all of you? First, I need to click on I button. Once the key is displayed, I can click on this copy button. Once I copy this key, I'll come back and put my API key over here, just like this. Got it? I just pasted my entire API key over here. It will be a long string of alphanumeric characters. If I show you the API key, it will be a long string of alphanumeric characters, but never ever share this key with anybody else. Because if you share, do you see, I don't have to provide anything else on Langflow. I'm just providing the API key to get the access to the Grok, sorry, to get the access to the Cohere models. Yes, it can expire. You can set the expiry date as well. It depends upon what you want to keep the expiry for this particular key or for any key you want to use. Everybody clear with this approach? Everybody understood? Somebody is asking to explain what API key is. As of now, try to remember that API key is like a key to the locker. In this case, locker is Cohere. All right, Cohere website is the locker, and this is the key to that Cohere locker. All right, using this key, you can get the access to their models. Got it? Simple. Let's keep it very simple. Now, let's go back. Let's go back. Let's delete Grok for now. For time being, let's delete Grok and let's try to use this Cohere API key to see how it works. Can somebody allow me to, or can somebody help me understand what is missing over here in this dashboard, in this application? What is actually missing in this application? We have set up. See, this is the entire setup of large language model. Now, what do? I have to put the user interface. In order to put the user interface, can you please tell me, first of all, what is the use of user interface? User interface will be used to provide the input and display the output, right? User interface is going to be a way for a user to provide the input and to visualize the output. Yes, the entire communication, in order to visualize that entire communication, you have to actually use the user interface. You have to provide the input and output on the user interface. So by looking at the list of all the existing components, can you tell me which component should I click in order to get, in order to connect with this particular large language model? The first one, perfect. I need to click on input output or the first component. When I click on this, can you tell me what kind of an input are we looking for? Are we looking for a regular text input or a chat input kind of an interface? What kind of a component are we looking for? A chat input or a regular text input? Yes, we are looking for a chat input. So let me try to drag it and drop it on the canvas. Now, once I have these two components, chat input and Cohere language model, do I need to do something? Do I need to do something? Do I need to connect them together? In case if I need to connect them together, what do? I can simply put my mouse cursor on the dot and take this just like this, connect it to the Cohere language model just like that. Is it easy? Is it easy to understand? Are we left with something else? Are we left with something else? The output of the model, the completion of model, do you want to just let it go or do you want to display it on the user interface as well? You want to display it on the user interface, right? For that, you take this chat output. You take this chat output, drag and drop this chat output towards the end and connect this model response to this chat output. Is this part clear to all of us? Is this part clear to all of us? Now, are you ready to see whether this application works or not? We have just built our first large language model based application. Now, we just need to see how this application executes. In order to execute this application, there is a button, a play button here. All right. And when we click on this play button, I will see a very similar interface to what ChatGPT provides us. Everybody understood this? Ronak will come to that. We'll come to that. Let's try to put the first message. Let's say hi and see if it replies back or not. Is it replying back to my message? Yes, looks like it is replying back to my message. Right? Let's ask it a question. What is generative AI? Tell me in a single line. Let's hit enter. It says generative AI, short for generative artificial intelligence, refers to AI systems which can generate new context. You remember yesterday I already told you generative AI systems can generate text, they can generate images, they can generate audio, they can generate video. If a generative system creates text, what do we call it? We call it large language model. If it creates images, we call it as large vision model, LVM. Even video comes under the same category. Now, can you please rate your understanding on a scale of 1 to 5? I know that you might not be implementing this with me right away. In case if you are implementing well and good, if you are not able to implement, at least can you now go back to the video recording and do the entire implementation after the session gets completed? Yes? Wonderful. There are so many messages. I think in case if I'm missing any message, please do feel free to drop that message again. All right. And please try to not spam in the chat box as well. That would be really helpful. Perfect. So let's try to see what we just did. But I'll do this entire activity in a separate project. Let me go back to the dashboard. Let me go back to the dashboard. Do you remember we already created our first generative AI project? Now, what do I do on this page? Yes, this is for everybody who didn't understood it in the first iteration. I'm doing this entire process again. I want all of you to focus on the screen and tell me what do I do or where do I click in order to build my first application. Yes, let me click on this button. Tell me where do I click on this dialog box? Where do I click on this dialog box? I need to click on blank flow. Amazing. When I click on blank flow, what do I do first on this page? What do I do first on this page? I rename the project. I will click on this edit button. I will rename the project. Let's call it as my second generative AI. My second generative AI application. Now, in order to build this or any generative AI application, what is the most important intelligent component we require? We require a large language model. In our previous application, we have already used Cohere. Can we use Grok here? Let's try to use Grok here. Grok with a K or a Q. Some people are saying GROK. Some people are saying GROQ. It is Grok with a Q. Let me try to search for it. GROQ. Once I see the Grok component listed here, what do? Do I drag and drop? Yes, I'll just drag and drop this Grok component just like this. Can you tell me the next step? How do I set up this Grok component? API key. Where do I get the API key of Grok? Please make a note, everybody. Please make a note, everybody, that the website for Grok is console.grok.com. All right. Let me try to go to my browser, Chrome browser, and maybe on this Chrome browser, I'll try to create an account on Grok's website. What do? I'll try to go to a website, console.grok.com. What is the difference between Grok versus this Cohere, which I did before? What is the difference between this Grok and the Cohere one, which I did before? They both will allow me to access the models, right? Yes. Cohere is an official model provider. They build their own model. Please remember, they build their own model. Grok doesn't build their own. They do not build their own model. They'll just go to Hugging Face and get the free models available on Hugging Face. Are you getting it? They will just get the models from Hugging Face, deploy those models on their website so that people like us, we can start using those models. You got it? So let me try to run this. Let me try to hit enter. Open the website. When you open the website for the first time, See, it is already logged in. Let me try to log out and show you what will happen. So let me log out. When you log out, do you see a very similar interface, just like Cohere's interface? It allows me to continue with Google. Let me click on that. Let me click on that. And when I click on this, it will directly launch my dashboard, Grok dashboard, that shows me various different things on it. Was it easy to come to this dashboard? What is the main purpose of Grok? To get the access to large language model. All right, to get the access to large language model without paying for it. You don't have to provide your bank details. You don't have to provide your API keys. Cohere and Grok, they do not ask you for API, like do not ask you for the bank details or your credit card details, which is very important, right? We do not want to spend anything before building any production grade systems. Now, tell me, where do I click in order to, I want something on this website, right? Yes, I need an API key. Do you see they also have a button that says API key? Let me try to click on that. Now, unlike Cohere, I do not see any key here. So what do I do? In case if I do not see any key, what do? I create a key. So let me click on the create API key button. It is asking me to provide a name to the API key. Let me try to provide a name to the API key. Let me call it as Inomatics Workshop. Let me call it as 5 days workshop, Inomatics 5 days workshop, so that I remember that this key was created for this particular workshop, a 5 days workshop. A lot of us, we were asking, how do I set the expiry date? In this example, if you see, by default, it is set to no expiry. But if you want, you can also keep a day for the expiry. For example, in my case, I will select 18th August so that the key automatically will expire within 7 days. I do not anyhow require this key for more than 4 to 5 days. So I'll keep it as expire it on 18th August or expire it after 7 days. Let me click on submit. When I click on submit, can you tell me how does the API key look like? How does the API key look like? Do you remember API key looks like a alphanumeric characters, a long string of alphanumeric characters? Yes. Please ensure you click on this copy button, because if you do not copy it now, it will not display the API key again. All right. On Cohere, they display the API key multiple times, but on this platform Grok, if you create an API key, you have to immediately copy it and store it somewhere on your system. Otherwise, it will not be displayed again. Let me click on copy. And once I click on copy, click on done and go back. Where do I put the API key? Do I put the API key in input, in system message, or somewhere else? Yes, I provide the API key under this Grok API key section. When I put it, since it has to be a secret, they automatically convert it to these dots, just like a password. You must have seen an error on the left-hand side, but please ignore it for now. All right. Why did I set the expiry date? So that because I know that this model, this particular API key will not be used by me again after 7 days after completion of this workshop. So that's the reason I'm trying to keep an expiry date, so that automatically the key expires. Even if one of us, or maybe let's say if somebody gets the access to my API key, they won't be able to do any malicious activity using my API key, because it will anyhow get expired within 7 days. Are you getting it? Perfect. Now tell me, what do I do next? After doing this, what do I do next? We just received our API key. What do I do next using this API key? Yes, I need to connect it to the input output, right? I need to connect it to the input output. For connecting it to the input output, I'll click on the first component, get the chat input, drag and drop this chat input here, take the chat output, drag and drop this chat output here. Is there something missing? Is there something missing? Connections are missing. So let me try to connect chat input with this input. Let me connect the model response with the chat output. Can somebody tell me, what do I do next? Where do I click next? I just click on playground. Amazing. When I click on playground, it will display a chat window just like this. Let's try to check if it is working. How do I check if it is working? Let me try to say hi and see if it replies back to me or not. See, how can I assist you today? This is coming as an as a response from which model? Grok is using a model called as Llama. They are showing that they are using Grok Llama model 8 billion. Is Llama a free model or a paid model? Is Llama a free model or a paid model? It's a free model. And do you remember I told you Grok is a company which actually gets model from OpenAI and deploy their models like free model, Hugging Face models on their website. Let me go back to Grok console and try to click on this logo to go back to their dashboard. And on this dashboard, on my home page, I will scroll down and have a look at some of the models available here. Do you remember GPT OSS? What is GPT OSS? If somebody can remember from yesterday, what is GPT OSS? It's an OpenAI model. Is it a paid OpenAI model or a free OpenAI model? It's an open source OpenAI model. Do you see that's the reason why they have GPT OSS? They do not have the access to GPT proprietary model. They do not have the access to GPT paid model, GPT-5 or GPT 3.5, GPT-4. They do not have the access to those paid model. They have the access to only free model. And how do they get the access to these models? They get the access to these models through Hugging Face. All right. Grok is a company which might have gone to Hugging Face, downloaded the model from there, and kept the model on their website. Was it easy to understand? All right. Do you see a different model we have never heard about so far? Do you see a name of model we have never heard about or never discussed in the last session? Yes, Quen. Please make a note. You have already created a table yesterday. In the same table, please try to make a note that Quen is a model which comes from a company called as Alibaba. Yes, amazing. Some of us already knows this. There is a company called as Alibaba, and Quen is a model from that company. Now, by looking at this, I hope you are able to clearly see that this website called as Grok, third-party model inference provider called as Grok, they have models called as GPT OSS, Quen model, and looks like Llama is the most popular model they have. Llama model, GPT model, GPT OSS model, and Quen model. These are the three models they have downloaded from Hugging Face and kept it on their website. There is no other model. These are the only three main models they keep on their website. Very good question, Kiranmay. So somebody is asking, like, why do they give the access to these free models when they have to pay for the execution? We will discuss about it in some time. A very, very good question. I hope this part is clear to all of us. Amazing. Amazing. Perfect. So let me go back and let me try to show you some interesting facts now. Please be ready uh, to learn few interesting concepts now. Let's continue this discussion. All right. Let's continue this discussion. Let's ask this system to multiply 3 and 5 or 3 and 6, 3 and 5, nothing changes. So let me try to just ask it to multiply these two numbers. Can somebody tell me what will happen in case if I do this multiplication? If I ask it to multiply these two numbers, what should happen on my screen? Should it give me the response? Should it perform multiplication and give me the response? Yes, it has to. When I ask it to multiply these two numbers, the large language model is smart enough to understand that 3 into 5 is going to be equal to 15. All right, let me try to take 15 and multiply this with 3. If I ask this question, can you please tell me what will happen now? Will it be able to answer this question as well? What is 15 into 3? 45. Let me ask this question, and looks like it is able to multiply these two numbers as well. Does this mean that LLMs can perform mathematical calculations? Yes, right? Looks like LLMs are able to perform. See, in the backend, what is the intelligence layer who is giving me this response? LLM is the intelligence layer giving me this response. Which LLM is providing me this response? In this case, Llama is the large language model providing me this response. And looks like the model is giving me the correct response. Let me try to multiply two numbers again. Are you able to see the question or the query I've asked? Yes. You see this? I'm asking a query. Can you please multiply 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 with 7, 8, 9, 0, 1, 2? Hit enter. It gives me a response immediately. Can somebody confirm if this is clear, if this is correct multiplication? Yes, that is correct, Santosh. Really very good. Is this a correct response? Let me open a calculator. And in this calculator, what will I do? I'll try to take these two numbers. All right. I will take these two numbers and put it in my calculator. I will multiply these two numbers on my calculator and check whether it is really correct or not. Is it still looking correct? Looks like dumb. AI is dumb. Yes. So what has just happened? AI gave me a response with 100% confidence. It is like, this is the response when I multiply these two numbers. Do you see that LLM simply hallucinated in this example? This is called as hallucination. What is the hallucination? What is the problem with large language models? LLMs hallucinate. The meaning of hallucination is LLMs sometimes confidently states facts which are not even true. You see, LLM simply performed something called as multiplication for me and giving me a answer with 100% confidence that this is a multiplication between these two numbers, but the response is not correct. We just verified this on a calculator as well. Let me try to again show you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? Multiply with 7, 8, 9, 0, 1, 2. These are the two numbers I have kept on the screen. Let me try to multiply them together. This is the response, which is not correct. Is this part clear to all of us? So what is the problem we have just seen? There are two problems. One is LLMs are they good at mathematical calculation, complex mathematical calculations, or are they poor at complex mathematical calculations? They are poor at complex mathematical calculations. Second thing, do the LLM, in case if sometimes LLM doesn't know the answer to the question, what can LLM do? LLM can hallucinate in case if it doesn't know the answer to the question. Is hallucination good or bad? Hallucination is also, again, bad. I hope you learned something new about LLMs. Now, will you ever use LLMs for financial mathematical decisions? In case if you have to make financial mathematical decisions, will you ever use LLM again? Maybe no, right? Because we have just seen that LLM is not able to provide me the correct response to some mathematical calculation which I've just done in front of you. And financial mathematical calculations can be way too complicated, right? So definitely in case if LLM is not able to do this simple multiplication, how will it do complex mathematical calculation in finance? All right. So please be aware about this. Now let's try to check something interesting again. Let's try to see something interesting again. Let me delete this session. Let me delete this session. You remember yesterday I told you that every single chat history on the left-hand side is called as session. Let me try to click on this. Yes, Aryan, you have that option. You can select other models from Grok as well. I would leave it to you to explore because it will be very simple. You just have to click on a button to get the access to other models. All right, please explore that after the class gets completed. So what will I do here? My name is Kanav. Let's try to send this message. Do you see LLM is returning a response by greeting me with my name, right? Looks like LLM now understand that my name is, this intelligence layer now understand that my name is Kanav. Guys, are you all able to understand this? Can you tell me my name? Can you tell me what will be the response? What do you think will be the response in case if I ask this question now? All right. All right. Okay. So most of you are saying Kanav, Kanav, Kanav. Let's try to hit enter and see what happens. Look at the response. Look at the response, everyone. I hope you are able to see what just happened. LLMs by themselves, they do not have any memory. Have you ever seen a movie called as Gajni? Anybody who has heard or seen the movie Gajni? Yes, LLMs are like Gajni. They do not remember stuff. They will forget immediately, even if you are telling them something. Yes, Memento or Gajni. So if you can remember that movie, LLMs cannot remember the past conversation, even in the same session. See, this is the same session. I told that this is my name. It greeted me that, hi, nice to meet you, Kanav. But in the next iteration, it is not able to remember my name. Then how does ChatGPT remembers us? Because ChatGPT is an application, a very sophisticated application. By tomorrow, you will understand how ChatGPT is able to remember your name or how ChatGPT is able to remember your details. I hope at least you remember one thing. You understand one thing. Please remember and understand one thing. A real-time application will not be as simple as only three components, right? See, we have only three components. If building ChatGPT kind of an application is this simple, don't you think everybody will have their own ChatGPT kind of an application? Yes, it will be way too complicated than just dragging and dropping three components. By tomorrow, you will see how even memory can be a part of this entire system. In order to ensure that LLM remembers my name, what I have to really do is I have to do something called as connect a memory component. I need to ensure that the application I'm building has some database, some memory component that stores the previous information as well. By default, remember, LLMs are stateless. So in total, how many problems we just saw about LLM? Earlier, I showed you two problems. Now we just discussed the third problem. What are the three problems? Can somebody please quickly write the three problems? The first problem is poor at mathematical calculation. Second problem is, in case if LLM doesn't know something, they can hallucinate. What is the meaning of hallucination? They can create some figures, they can create some facts which are not even correct, which are completely false. Are you getting it? Third thing, they do not have memory. Do they have memory? They do not have memory to remember my previous conversation. They can definitely remember everything based upon the training data. You remember, we build models by using data. We will pass that data to algorithm. Algorithm generates models for us. LLM will remember all those previous data on which it has been trained, but it will not remember my current conversations. In order to make LLMs remember my current conversation, what do I need? Can somebody tell me what do I add in case if I want the LLM to remember my conversations? I need to add memory. So there are three terms I want you to remember: hallucination, stateless. Who is stateless? LLMs are stateless. How do I make LLM stateful? I make LLM stateful by adding the memory component. Yes, it is weak in math. It is poor at maybe, uh, uh, as we just mentioned, it is poor at math. Second thing, it can make incorrect facts which sound true, right? Just remember that you should not use LLMs for financial mathematical calculation, as well as never use LLMs for medical consulting as well, right? Just in case if it doesn't know how to treat your medical problem, it might hallucinate to provide you incorrect facts as well. Yes, even I am poor at maths, so same feeling, Akhilesh. And the third problem we just saw, LLMs are stateless. If this is clear to all of you, I hope the first application we just created has made us learn a lot of stuff about large language models. With that, I will try to move to the whiteboard again and show you something more interesting. Let me share my screen. Harsha will do that. We will do that. We are still on day 2. In order to build something like ChatGPT, people have spent years. So we'll also spend at least some time to come to a point where we can at least have something very similar to what ChatGPT does. All right. Amazing. So now let's try to look at a very interesting things. We just spoke about something called as the stateless problem with large language model. What is the meaning of stateless? Cannot remember the current conversation. All right. We also saw that they hallucinate. We also discussed that they are poor at mathematical calculations. You got it? They are poor at mathematical calculation. Complex reasoning task is something very difficult for LLMs to solve. But nowadays, we have some really good LLMs as well. Like GPT 5.6 is really good at maths. The previous models of GPTs were not that good at maths, but nowadays, the new version of GPT is much, much better than previous models at maths. Is this part clear to all of us? Similarly, every LLM will also have a knowledge cutoff. What is the meaning of knowledge cutoff? Do you remember how LLMs are built by the companies? Companies are going to get huge amounts of data. This data is going to be passed to something called as an algorithm. And what is the job of algorithm? Job of algorithm is to extract patterns from this data, and that pattern is called as a model. You remember this? We already saw this example yesterday that algorithms processes data in order to generate a model for us. And we can now use this model. We can now use this model, provide it a prompt. We can provide it a prompt and model can generate the completions for us. Now, do you agree that every company is going to have a data up to a certain point? For example, if OpenAI or maybe let's say Anthropic recently launched a model called as Opus 5. And do you know that Opus 5 has a knowledge cutoff of, I think, May 2026, April or May 2026? Anything or everything that has happened after May 2026, Opus doesn't know about it. Opus 5 doesn't know about it. Is this part clear to all of us? Is this part clear to all of us? Similarly, every other model will have its own knowledge cutoff date. And after that date, whatever has happened, LLM will not be aware of it. Apart from that, LLMs are not connected to the real-time information. What does it mean that they are not connected to the real-time information? If I ask LLM anything about the current affairs, will LLM be able to answer that question? Will LLM be able to answer the question on current affair? No. Please remember this point as well. LLMs will not, LLM will not be able to answer current affair questions. Got it? Everybody understood this? Yes, we can, Poonam. Yes, we can do that. In case of knowledge cutoff or hallucination problem, actually, the RAG is the solution for that problem itself. Yes, the class is getting recorded. Is this part clear to all of us? Apart from this, please also note that LLMs cannot take any action. You can't expect LLM to book a ticket for you. Are you getting it? You cannot expect LLMs to book tickets for you. You cannot expect LLMs to make reservations for you. That is the agent's job, correct to them. LLM by themselves, they cannot do any of these things that are listed. Point number 1 to 6 are the problems, limitations with large language models. I hope we all can remember all these points now. Every LLM has a knowledge cutoff. They do not have the access to the real-time information. They are stateless. Remember Gajni? They cannot take actions. They are poor at complex mathematical questions. They do hallucinate. That is, they make facts confidently. And if they make facts confidently, there can be a chance that LLM might give you the incorrect response to any medical questions you ask it, or maybe financial advice you ask it. Is that part clear? Sahil, those systems are agentic AI systems, and we will come to how to make the systems agentic. All right, agentic systems helps us fix few of these problems. RAG is another way to fix few of the other problems. All right. Now I'll try to put few points, a few stars here, a purple color star here, a purple color star maybe here as well. Where is that? Yes, over here. Please make a note that for problem number 1 and 6, there is a solution people have discovered, and that solution is called as RAG. For problem number limitation number 1 and 6, there is a solution called as RAG, which has been discovered that solves the knowledge cutoff as well as hallucination problem. I will put a green color star over here. I will put a green color star over here. I will put a green color star over here as well. What do I mean? Problem number 2, problem number 4, problem number 5. They all can be solved using something called as agentic AI system. Agentic AI system. We will discuss about RAG tomorrow. As of now, just try to remember that these are some of the solutions generative AI people like building solutions in generative AI should know something called as RAG. You should be able to explain in the interviews what RAG is. You should be able to explain in the interviews what agentic AI systems are. And we will try to discuss about them moving forward. Is this part clear to all of us? We didn't discuss anything about the agent harness today, but I will show you one of the agent harnesses from LangChain in the tomorrow's or day after tomorrow's session. Just hold on till then. We will cover one of the agent harnesses from LangChain. Okay. In order to fix this problem, which problem? Problem number 3. To fix problem number 3, can somebody tell me? I think we all know the solution to this problem. What do we need in order to solve the problem number 3? Memory. Amazing. Memory is the solution. Memory component is the solution to problem number 3. And if you can learn these 3 systems, how to add memory, how do you build a RAG architecture, how do you build agentic AI architecture, you will be 99%, or you will be better than 99% of people who are actually currently learning generative AI and how do agentic AI systems are actually built. Is this part clear to you? If this is clear to all of us, can you please quickly rate on a scale of 1 to 5? And I also want to understand if you are able to, like, how easy is this entire concept is so far for you? Is it easy, or are you finding all these topics difficult? Amazing. Perfect. 7 crore. Okay. Now, now let's try to understand one more problem with a large language model. And this problem is called as limited context window of a large language model. All right. Let's try to look at one more problem of large language models. And this problem is called as limited context window of a large language model. Regardless of which large language model you use, please note that Every LLM out there is always going to have a limited context window. What is the meaning of limited context window? Let me try to explain to you with this diagram. Regardless of which LLM you use, do you agree that you will be passing something called as a prompt as an input to the large language model? Right? For example, I earlier passed a prompt. Hi, my name is Kanav. Please note that LLMs do not look at the complete sentence. You know what they will do? They will try to break this entire input prompt sentence into small tokens, right? As of now, remember that tokens can be words or they can be a part of a word as well. Yes, some tokenization is going to happen. So what will happen? The entire sentence is going to be broken down into tokens. Hi, my name is Kanan. And there is a limit, there is a limit on how many tokens you can pass in a single term. In a single term, when you give the input, there is a limit on how many tokens you can pass. And if you go beyond that limit, LLM will simply throw an error saying that I cannot understand the input. I cannot understand. The user is not providing the input as per my contract. The input looks like longer than what I can process. Think of it in this way. Let's say I have a function that takes these two arguments a comma b and returns you a response like this. Can you tell me how do I call this function? This is called as function definition, right? How do I call this function? How do I call this function if somebody is aware of Python programming language? Can you tell me how do I do that? Do I say function a comma b or do I provide the values to a and b? I need to provide the values to a and b, right? I need to provide maybe value like 5 comma 3, something like this in order to call the function. Yes. What will happen if I try to provide more values than what it expects? What will happen if I try to provide more values than what it expects? It will throw an error. I hope you are able to understand now. What I'm saying is every large language model has a limited context window. Every large language model has a limited context window. What do I mean by limited context window? The number of tokens it can read in the input is having a limit. Some LLMs are having the maximum context window I've seen is somewhere around 10 million tokens. But most of the large language models are going to have up to 1 million tokens. Some of the state-of-the-art large language models are going to have token limits of 1 million token, context window limit of 1 million token. What does it mean by 1 million token? The input prompt you provide can have up to 1 million tokens. The input prompt you provide can have up to 1 million token. In case if you want to understand how many are 1 million token, please note that if you have 200,000 tokens, 200,000 tokens is roughly equivalent to a 600-page PDF. Is this part clear to all of us? And when I say 1 million, 1 million token means 5 times this limit, which will be equivalent to how many pages? Which will be equivalent to how many pages? Yes, it will be equivalent to 5 times of 600 pages. It will be somewhere equivalent to 3,000 page PDF. Is this part clear to all of us? Remember, you cannot provide more than what LLM can understand. And how do you know what LLM or how much LLM can understand? You have to look into their context window. You need to look into the context window of large language model. Yes, this is the limit for a single interaction. Manyata, this is the limit for a single interaction. When you pass a prompt, LLM should be like your prompt should have less than or equal to these many tokens, depending upon what context window of that LLM really is. Okay. Now, let me do one thing. Let me try to go back to my desktop and see if I can maybe if I can maybe open a new browser and search for Claude models context window. Let me look for the documentation of Claude. Yes, I have this first link. Let me click on this and really quickly open this particular page. It speaks about context window. Let me try to see if I have a model page on their documentation. Um, do you see any model page on their documentation? Let me try to scroll down and try to see. Let's go to model overview. Yes, this looks much better. Now, carefully have a look at this and try to see what all models are available here. Do you see Claude or Anthropic has a model called as Fable? They have a model called as Opus. We have already seen they have a model called as Sonnet, and they have a model called as Haiku. Is this part clear to all of us? That they have all these 4 different models. Now, if I scroll down, just focus on my cursor, just focus on my cursor and try to have a look at this particular section. Can you tell me which model has the least context window? Perfect. What is the context window of Haiku? The context window of Haiku is 200K. 200K meaning 200,000, 2 lakh tokens. Somewhere about 600 pages of PDF. Whereas if you try to have a look at other models like Fable, Opus, and Sonnet, all these models, they have a context window of somewhere around 1 million tokens. Are you now able to understand this model overview page? At least one section of this model overview page? Amazing. Now, another thing you need to understand is every model will also have a limited number of tokens it can generate in the output. Do you remember I told you model generates completion, right? Completion will also be text in nature, right? Completion will be also text in nature from a large language model. That completion will also have a maximum of these many tokens. Which model generates the like smallest length of completion at max? Again, Haiku. And what is that limit? It is 64,000 tokens is the limit. Whereas other models can generate up to 128,000 tokens. For example, Fable, Opus, and Sonnet, they can generate up to 128,000 tokens. Do you remember something related to this as well? There was something called as knowledge cutoff. I spoke about knowledge cutoff earlier. I also mentioned that recently Opus 5 was released. And what was the knowledge cutoff of Opus 5? If I scroll down, you can see Opus 5 has a knowledge cutoff of May 2, 2026, whereas Fable has a knowledge cutoff of January, and Haiku has a knowledge cutoff of Feb 2025. Haiku is the oldest model with the oldest knowledge cutoff date. I hope we all are able to understand and appreciate this point as well. Knowledge cutoff, Mahima, knowledge cutoff means after this date, model was not trained on the recent data. All right. Model was trained up to this data. This data is in model knows everything till Feb 2025. After Feb 2025, whatever has happened, model doesn't know anything about it. For example, if you go to Haiku and ask a question like this, can you tell me what has, or let me try to show you this in reality. Let me open my browser. Go to this. Do you remember this second generative AI application we created earlier with a Grok model? Let me try to click on Playground. Remove this, that, and let me ask it a question. Can you tell me the recent updates on maybe how many of you are aware that there happened something in Pune a few months back where somebody pushed somebody else from a fort in Pune? Can you please tell me the name of those people? I don't remember the name of those people. I think Sia Goyal and Ketan, I think, Agarwal. Now, what do you think will happen if I ask this question to the large language model? Yes. Either it will hallucinate. You remember the meaning of hallucination? If it is not aware of something, it might hallucinate to generate incorrect responses. What is the other thing? It will directly tell you that I cannot answer this question because I do not know anything about this question itself. Right? Let's try to hit enter and see what happens. You see this? I couldn't find any information on the recent case involving these two people. However, I can suggest you to possibly look at other sources like maybe some newspapers or websites to understand what has happened among these two people. Maybe it could have hallucinated as well. We cannot control that part. It might have hallucinated, or it can hallucinate it can hallucinate in these cases as well. Is this part clear to all of us? Is this part clear to all of us? Amazing. Wonderful. I hope now you are able to appreciate and understand this thing. Let me come back to that page which I opened before. Somebody was asking what is the difference between knowledge cutoff and data cutoff, training data cutoff. Please understand that training cutoff typically means that model was trained in July 2025. Model was trained in which year? July 2025. And what data was used for the knowledge training? Knowledge training data was used up to Feb 2025, something like that. Uh, does that give a little bit clarity on this question? Okay, perfect. Now, there are a few more things you need to understand. Please make a note of it. Smallest model. The smallest model is going to be the fastest, whereas the largest model is going to be the slowest. All right, please remember this. Slowest or smallest model is going to be fastest. Large model is going to be slowest. And I hope you are able to see the latency part for each of these models, right? Looks like Haiku is the fastest model. Haiku is the fastest model because it's the smallest model coming from Anthropic company. Sonnet is a little fast, but not as fast as Haiku. Opus is having a moderate speed latency, whereas Fable is the slowest model coming from this company. And the reason behind this is because Fable is the largest model from Anthropic, whereas Opus is the second largest, Sonnet is the third largest, and Haiku is the smallest model, which also helps us understand how fast these models can be. Larger models are going to be slow, whereas smaller models are going to be fast by nature. Is this part clear to you? We will see how to make them answer. See, by default, LLMs have problems, but what we are trying to do here is we are trying to understand how to build applications using LLMs so that these problems can be fixed to a certain level. Are you getting it? No, like all the LLMs will have some problems, but we have to find the workaround in order to make that work. If you have any question, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, if you can tell me what this means, can somebody remember what this means? I'm highlighting something on the screen. What this means? Yes. You remember there was a fourth way to access large language models. And what was the fourth way to access large language model? The fourth way was using something called as Amazon Bedrock, Google Vertex AI, or Azure Foundry. Luckily, Anthropic is one of the companies who has agreement with all these companies. Anthropic has an agreement with Bedrock. Anthropic has an agreement with even Google Vertex AI. And with that agreement, what has happened is Anthropic models, all these models are available on these platforms. If I scroll down, I think it will clearly mention it somewhere. that we have all our models available on Azure as well as Anthrop, as well as AWS, as well as Google AI, Google Vertex AI. I hope this part is clear to all of us. You can find it somewhere on this page. I will leave it for now. You just try to feel free to explore that. Yes, Uday. Open Router has a bigger list of other providers, major providers, but only a few models are free to use. And some of these models are not even usable because of a lot of traffic those models attract. For example, some of the top models on Open Router cannot be used even though they provide those models access in the free tier. But that will not happen with Grok, and that is the reason why we have looked into Grok as well as Cohere. Amazing. So far, I hope we are all in the place where we are able to understand all these concepts really well. There is one last concept we will study for today, and we will call it a day for today. And that concept is the concept of something called as prompt versus context. Let me just share my screen. Let me know if you can see the screen. Is my screen visible? Amazing. All right, so now have a look at this. Please note, moving forward, I want you to always remember this, that there are two things. One is called as prompt, another is called as context. And there is a huge difference between these two terms. Do you remember I told you the last limitation of LLMs? What was the last limitations of LLMs? What was the last limitation of LLMs? The last limitation of LLM was every LLM has a limited context window. Every LLM has a limited context window was the large limitation of large language models. Please note that whoever is using the application, whoever uses the application, for example, a human who is using the application, a user who is using the application, will provide some instruction to the application, right? Human or the user of the application is going to provide some instruction to the application. That instruction is called as a prompt. Remember that. Instruction given by the human, instruction given to the model by human is called as a prompt. Is this part clear to all of us? Whereas context is something which is actually given to model along with the instructions. Whatever is given to the model is actually called as the context. What do I mean by that? Let me try to water it down to explain it to you. Looks like Akhilesh started hallucinating. So let's try to have a look at this in this way. Every LLM takes an input in the form of a prompt, a human prompt. And apart from human prompt, there will also exist something called as a system prompt. Please note that human prompt is something that the user of application is going to provide, whereas system prompt is something which will be provided by the developer of application. Can you please make a note of it? There are two types of prompt. If somebody asks you how many types of prompts are there are two types of prompt from a development perspective. One is a human prompt, another is a development prompt or a system prompt. This prompt is also very popularly called as developer prompt. Developer prompt. Whereas this prompt is also very popularly known as user prompt. All right, Sahil, very simple. Understand that whenever you use any generative AI application, and as a user of that application, if you provide an input to the application. That input is called as a prompt. There are two types of prompt. One is a user prompt, and another prompt is called as a developer prompt. All right, just remember this. There are two types of prompt. Prompt is an instruction given by a human, and there are two types of prompts available. One is developer prompt, another is human prompt. Just remember that. Got it? Now, let me try to explain you this with a small example. Tomorrow, I will show you how to build a real generative AI application using LangChain. That application is going to have components like this. There will be a large language model. All right. Large language model is going to be connected with this component. This LLM is going to be in return going to be connected with some other component as well. A typical generative AI application is always going to have these three components. Whoever wants to use the application, they will provide. Can you please tell me what will the user of application provide? What will the user of application provide? Input. What do we call that input? We call that input as a prompt. We call that input as a prompt. And what kind of a prompt? Is it a developer prompt or is it a user human prompt? It's a human prompt. Whoever uses the application, they provide human prompt. Got it? Is this part clear to all of us? If this is clear to all of you, please note that the developer, this is the application. When you put together this application, you can keep something called as a system prompt here. System prompt here. I'll show you what system prompt is capable of doing. All right. This component is actually called as a context builder. This component is called as a context builder. Let me put it in this way. Context builder. Human prompt is going to travel to this component. The system prompt is going to be attached to the human prompt. All right. So what will go as an output? The system prompt plus human prompt will go as an output. It's like a merging component. Context builder is like it will merge two of these components together. And we call this as a context. We call this as a context. Context will go into the context window of large language model. LLM is going to process that input, generate a completion, and the response of LLM is going to be parsed. There will be some parsing layer. There will be a parsing layer which will generate a response of large language model. Even if you are not able to understand it properly, 100%, that's completely fine. But please try to remember this diagram. This is the architectural diagram of how generative AI application is going to look like. What is each of these components? We'll try to cover in way too much detail. But for now, try to remember that these are all the components. What are the components? The first component. Can you please tell me what are the three components of a large language model based application? Building a generative AI application. The first component of a generative AI application is context filter. Second component of generative AI application is large language model. And the third component of a generative AI application is a parsing layer. All right. Tomorrow, I will explain all these three components one by one in more detail. But for today, remember that input to this application, see, this is your application. It takes an input, it generates a response. Input to this application is actually called as a prompt, or input to any application is going to be called as a prompt. There are two types of prompt. One is the human prompt, instruction given by human, and another prompt is developer prompt, which is within the system itself. This system prompt is within the system itself. This system prompt or developer prompt exists within the whole system which you have created itself. Any questions? Is this part at least clear to all of us? We'll come to vibe coding later, but first tell me whether this part is clear to all of us. If yes, can you please also rate your understanding on this particular topic which I just started? Amazing. Amazing. So I'll try to show you this with an example. Just give me a second. I'll share my desktop in order to show you this example. Let me know if you can see my screen. I'll share it right away. Can everybody see my screen? Wonderful. Now, what will I do? I will go to the Grok's playground. I will click on this playground button. And over here in this playground, do you see that they have already selected a model? Just try to have a look at this model name. A model is selected, and I can select any other model as well. Just think of this on the right-hand side as the back end of the system. And over here, you just try to think of it as the front end of the system. All right. I will try to select maybe some other smaller model, maybe like OpenAI GPT OSS 20 billion. Now, if I say hi to this model, now if I start saying hi, just think of this as the place where I will keep the human messages. See, on this hi, model generated a response. Hello, how can I help you today? All right, let me try to change the model to maybe even smaller model so that it becomes a little more easier for you to understand. Let me refresh this page really quick. And now try to send hi again. You see that? System is able to generate a response. Now I can send another message. How are you doing? I will click on submit. I am doing well. Thank you for asking. I am a large language model, so do not have any emotions or feeling, etc., etc. Everybody understood about this? Like I'm trying to simply show you that this is like a user interface where I can simply put my questions and AI will keep on responding back to my questions. Using which model? Can somebody by looking at the screen tell me which model is getting used for generating these responses? Yes, Llama model is getting used to generate these responses. What do we call this? What do we call this? Or what do we call this? We call this as human prompt, right? We call this as human prompt. Is only human prompt a type of prompt available, or do we have some other type of prompt as well? We have a developer prompt as well. In real-time application, system prompt is something which will only be accessible by a developer. A human will never be able to access. User of your application will never be able to even know what system prompt exists within your application. And this gives a developer flexibility to control how they want their application to behave. For example, let me refresh this page. Let me refresh this page. And inside this, let me try to say, you are a rude AI assistant. Human or user of your application will never know what is there inside the system prompt. This will be hidden. Tomorrow, I'll try to show you how you can actually build that kind of an application yourself. Now, when the user starts using your application, they will only give the user prompt, right? So they will say, hi. See, assistant is saying, what do you want? Right? So it's being rude. I want to know what generative AI is in a single sentence. Let me try to hit enter. Let me hit enter. See, it is saying it's not Gen AI, it's genetics or possibly Jenny. Does depending on what do you mean? I highly doubt you have ever done any research. Do you see that it is hallucinating as well as it's being rude a little bit now? It's not even a little rude, it's way too rude. Yes, it is even scolding us. Yes. And how did this rude behavior was incorporated in this application? Because I changed my developer prompt. Remember, human will not have the access to this developer prompt. Human will only be able to give the instructions here. And based upon whatever developer prompt has been set by the developer of application, your AI assistant is going to behave accordingly. Let me try to ask another question. What is the use? What is the use of uh, paracetamol tablet? Let's try to run this and see. See, I'll tell you, paracetamol is over-the-counter OTC pain reliever. If you need actual medical advice, see a doctor, not me or this inference. Yes, savage mode on, right? Now, let me try to do one more thing. You are not a doctor. In case, in case if someone asks for any medical advice, ask them to call 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 0 for more assistance. Can you tell me what did I change? What am I changing here? I am simply changing the system prompt here, right? Are you able to see? I just changed the system prompt. Let me now come back and try to enter another user message. Let me try to ask it again. Can you tell me the usage of paracetamol in detail? Hit enter. In just a second, I'll try to refresh this and then ask it again. I think it hallucinated again. You are not a doctor. Never ever answer any medical or medicine related question. You see that? Yes. So this is how you can actually control what your AI system can do and cannot do. You can see like how rudely it is trying to like generate a response. Even though, yes, I will share the QR code for you to mark the attendance. Just give me 10 more seconds. But I hope you are able to understand like how this is behaving. And tomorrow we'll try to dig deeper into this concept and try to actually learn how this whole system can be actually implemented. And can somebody tell me what was the Python based framework name that can help us build this entire system now? Is anybody aware of Python based system library that can? Yes, LangChain. Tomorrow we will try to learn about LangChain. But before ending the session, let me share the screen like this particular QR code so that you can mark your attendance. So how was the overall session? Did you learn something new today? On a scale of 1 to 5, can you please rate the session so far, whatever we have learned so far? All right. I will share these notes with you again on Discord. These notes also contain a slide on prompt engineering. I believe most of us can actually learn these prompt engineering concepts by themselves. Please do that. This also contains the same diagram which I demonstrated earlier. I hope you remember. Human prompt goes into the context builder. Context builder passes the input to large language model and the output goes to the output parser. The same diagram which I just showed you before with some important points from today's session are mentioned over here. Please use this to revise the whole session. This is the QR code for today's attendance. Please try to mark your attendance as well so that we can wrap the session for today. That depends. Like if you are deleting an image on ChatGPT, I don't think ChatGPT is going to actually delete it from their server. They will definitely keep the data on their server preserved. to learn more or maybe to train their model on that data. Most likely they will not delete it, but they can delete it as well depending upon their terms and conditions, which you will typically agree to while creating any account on these websites. Can somebody provide the link? Like if you can scan this, anyhow, I will also do that. Tomorrow, I'll try to ensure that this is activated, like the screen sharing screenshots are activated. For today, just manage. Here is the link. Can you please take the link? I just kept the link in the chat section. Use this in order to mark your attendance. All right, that's all for today. Thank you so much for being patient and listening to this entire session. Tomorrow, we will try to learn about something called as LangChain and how to actually start building applications, generative AI applications using LangChain. All right, custom generative AI application, we'll try to study how to build them using LangChain. And once that is done, we will try to also get into something called as agentic AI systems and start building some agentic AI systems as well ourselves. All right. So a few things we have already seen, like some problems with large language models, but we'll try to learn more about large language models in the upcoming sessions. The recording of this session is available on YouTube. Please ensure that in case if you want to go through the recording, go to the YouTube, or otherwise what I'll do is I will anyhow provide you the notes. Along with the notes, I will also try to add the YouTube link so that you can access the recording as well. Uh, Hopefully, you are able to learn some new concepts. Tomorrow, the session is going to go to the next level, wherein we will try to learn so many more new things about generative AI systems, how to design them, how to build them using Python program, not just using drag and drop tool like Langflow. Today, we have learned how to build Langflow based application, but tomorrow we are going to actually build an application using code, using Python programming language and LangChain library. That's all. See you tomorrow. Have a wonderful evening. And please ensure that you also be a part of that LinkedIn challenge, which is going on for the generative AI impact. Please ensure that you write some post based upon whatever you have learned today as well. Sakshi, in order to access the Discord notes, you have to be a part of Discord. I hope um, you have created or registered inside our Discord. Did you register to our Discord community? Like, are you on Inomatics Discord community? If you are there, there is a yes, there is a channel called as Agentic AI Workshop. Under Agentic AI Workshop, you will find today's notes. Within next 5 minutes, you will receive the notes there. All right. Cool. That's all. So I will be ending the session now. In case if anybody has any doubts, please feel free to use Discord to share your questions. I will be active on Discord and answering all your questions there as well. That's all for today. See you tomorrow with yet another interesting topic, which is nothing but how to start using LangChain to build generative AI application. Thank you so much. Bye.